Hear that? The roar of the engines, the gallop of horsepower around a tarmac jungle. Oh, it must be a new season of F1. Yes, with the brand new season now kicked off in July, we have a new game releasing this week, and it's, Kia Formula 1 2020 was provided for the purposes of a review. Right, now all that boring guff is out of the way, I can actually get to some speed and power and other stuff that I spoke about in February, about last year's game. Nonetheless, the question everyone wants to know is it better? If so, why? Yes, F1 2020 is much better than its previous game, or predecessor, yes, that's the word. It is so deep, yet so accessible for, well, everyone. It's not just accessible for mad people like me who think speed is the acceptable thing to shout when you're being chased by the cops for drug-related... Yes, now you too can join in with the power bit of that thing that old man used to say on a programme that no one watches anymore, but the BBC will still produce, trying to create the exact same thing out of fecal matter. I recently said in a editorial somewhere that I have played 300 hours of Formula 1 2019, and I believe it. I genuinely believe that I put that much time into Formula 1 2019 because I'd play it just about any other time that I wasn't playing anything else. I'd just stop playing something else when I had free time and just put up 2019. Nothing else was on my mind. I just went, oh, right, I'll drive, and then listen to a podcast or watch a video or do something and just clear my head. Yes, it's a bit weird that I would use a game that has you going 160 miles an hour around a bend a bit wrong to clear your head, but when did I ever say that I was sane? Never, exactly. Okay, but get to the why. Well, why I actually like Formula 1 2020 over 2019 a bit more is because it's learned from all the things that I said in the previous review, both written and video. It's gone from, hey, let's do a little bit of a feeder season for Formula 2 into Formula 1, and said, hey, yeah, Yes, you can do the whole 24 races of Formula 2 and then go into Formula 1. I said that should be a thing last year. Okay, in the written review, not, in the video one, but still, it's learnt from my lessons that I tried to impart on it. That I love. Yes, you can still do the scenario-based feeder season, or you can do a shortened season, but the point is you can have that bit of an option. You also have the option to change what tracks you play on for each season of F1, and I think you can do that with F2 as well. I've not really tested that one because I don't really care for F2. I care more for the speed and power bit. Yes. Anyway, yes, Formula 1, however, has been tweaked a little. Well, both Formula 1 and Formula 2 have been tweaked a little because it's overall the driving that I'm going to talk about. As reported, I think 2 months ago now, Lando Norris, the third place, Austria. Yes, Lando Norris of McLaren had been in the development process with Codemasters to make Formula 1 2020 a little more realistic is possibly the wrong term, because it's still a game, it's still a little arcadey in places. You can still do many things that, well, would kill a normal human in a F1 car. Now again, most things would kill a normal human in an F1 car. A Jaguar, for example, they would rip you to bits, mostly because it's a tight cockpit. With a bit of realism turned up, the cars are just a little more slippy in a straight line and round bends and, well, practically everywhere. It's all become a bit more fun to drive instead of what I'd weirdly become accustomed to. You know, driving 180 miles an hour and 160 miles an hour around a bend, and sometimes 215 miles an hour down a straight. That's not normal. That should not be normal. But it is, and I love it. I think the biggest change that's really created such a slippy car for all of them, really, would be the tire pressure setup thing in the new, well, I say new, all of the UI has been overhauled into a new package, but with the overhaul of the setup in the pit, you can now change the pressure of every single tire. Not just, you know, your front and your rears, but your front left and your front right, and respective of the rear as well. You can tweak every tiny little bit. I love that. I love the fact that you can set up the car so that you have more pressure on one side than you do with the other. And of course, my colleagues will think, wait, what does that have to do with anything? That changes pressure. Yes, but the pressure also gives you a bit more grip or a bit less, and it gives you more responsiveness, and it's all a bit confusing because you need a degree in magic to understand how an F1 car works. And I do mean actually how it works, not just you put the pedal down and it goes, because that's what everyone thinks an F1 car is. No, there's a lot more magic in it. No, really, it is just magic. It's all witchcraft and all that other stuff that we're not supposed to talk about since J.K. Rowling has turned into the worst person ever in recent weeks. The cars might be a bit slippier to drive, but it's also a bit harder to race. Well, not harder, it's more fun to race, as up front there is more of a tighter pack, as I found with my first race with my team. I'll get to that in a minute. My team being the new mode that gives you something of a team to manage. That's what it says on the tin, really. Yes, now instead of having a 20 to 60 second lead on the second position car, I can hardly eke about 20 seconds in my second stint. Yes, I love that. I love the proper tight racing of Formula 1, because that's kind of the point. The point of racing in such a high-skilled sport. There's so much in the racing that makes it fun. And that was already the case in the year prior, but now up front there is more to fight for, especially with your My Team mode, which gives you the full control of a team. Again, I'll get to that in a minute, but you have this ability to fight for position instead of gunning ahead like you're Schumacher or something. It's fun to sit there and think, there's Valtteri right behind me, and he's only 700ths of a second behind me. How do I work all of this out and turn bends at high speed and work out my pit strategy and work out that my fuel might just eke out enough that I can gun ahead enough so he's not using DRS, and I can use a bit of ERS or ERS to get ahead a little bit further, just so he's out of the DRS zone, and I can maybe get enough ahead so I can do a pit stop properly and come out ahead. Yes, I think most people would think, how does your head work if you're doing that at speed? Really, the speed isn't a factor. Speed's just, a thing that's there. Which is weird to say. Again, it shouldn't be normalised that I'm going 100 and something hours a minute and something such, and that's fast. It is fast, and it feels fast, and that's the point. It feels fast, but you don't register that because you have a million other things to concentrate on, as you have some Finnish man behind you saying, yeah, can I just gun it ahead of him? No? Okay, he's going to kill me. Speaking of death and possible brown trouser moments, you have Zandvoort, the new track that's in Europe. Well, it's not new, it's a repurposed old track created to be new, and it has one of the best things in the universe. A banked turn. Okay, two, but the banked turn of Zandvoort on turn 15 and, well, turn 4 is a bit more of a steep downhill than up thing. They're brilliant. Okay, yes, I did poo myself about 12 times going round 12 times, but Jesus, they're fun. It is fun to go into those bends at, well, 100 and something hours a minute, or miles per minute. I don't care. It's fast. It's very fast. It's one of the few times that I'm thinking, yeah, an F1 car probably could drive on the ceiling if you give it enough speed and, well, enough space. It turns round all these corners and up these banks and down these banks and such and so on in about 111 flat. So, of course it can drive on the ceiling, but you'd need a very big ceiling, because that's driving 3 miles in just over a minute. That's a lot of driving in a short time. It's brilliant. I love it. I love all of that. What I don't like is Hanoi, the other new track. The new one for Asia. Yes, the one in Vietnam. Yes, that one with... Let's not talk about Vietnam. It's a bit of a boring track. Yes, it is one of the few tracks to be quite long and quite fast, but there's no elevation, there's nothing in it that brings excitement. It is just a thing that's there. You don't feel like, oh yes, this is fun, this is exciting. It's just a bit of a Herman Tilker mess. Again, it's one of those, not Bahrain, Abu Dhabi races. It's one of those, but with a bit less of the cornering and cornering and cornering and cornering. And yes, there's 22 corners, and it does feel a bit weird to think, how did he do that? But the point is, it's just flat. Every single bit of it is on the exact same degree. Okay, maybe it's got 2 degrees of an incline and dip down, but it's all boring. You have the straights, you have the big roundabout bit, and then you have the Maggots Beckett's S's, the bit that's in the American Grand Prix. Yeah, that one. It's all just a bit boring. Continuing with my slight issues. I also found the audio to be a little guffed. Yes, it's weird. In the pre-race build-up thing that apparently we need. Okay, it's fun to see the grid going, oh yes, this, yes, you, ooh, that's me! And then you go, oh wait, that doesn't actually look like me because the character customization is just a bit naff. But you still have that fun bit of, ooh, that's my name! And because neither of my names are in the game, I have to go, ooh, I'm Mr. Monaco, and just enjoy that. But with the build-up to the race, there is this flyover by jets. Now, most of the time you would think, oh, the Doppler effect would create this whoosh as they fly overhead and then disappear into the distance. Oh, well, they don't. At least in the pre-release footage and the pre-release gameplay that I have, it's not mixed properly, is what I want to say. There are many issues with the audio that I have, but that is the most evident one, where audio just cuts out instead of dissipating over time like the jet engine would when it flies past. It's just a straight cut, almost as if whoever edited the video package or whoever was on the audio side mixing just pressed a button at the wrong time or cut something at the wrong time, and it's very noticeable. And it's not the only audio issue. As I said, Jeff, the engineer in your ears, happens to be a bit more boxy, a bit more... There's a bit more reverb in the room that you hear him in. It's all a bit low quality from my ears, and I've listened to both 2019 and 2020 back to back and said, wait, that's lower quality. I don't know if this is because this time I'm playing on PS4 instead of Xbox One, but there is a slight dip in audio quality and, well, the audio overall. I don't know why. I don't think it's going to be an issue for long if it's noticed by others, but it is a noticeable issue if that's what you really care about. What you will probably care about is gameplay and the My Team mode, the new career mode, if you will. It's quite fun. You have this semi-deep, I guess, management mode where, yes, you can somewhat micromanage your team, specifically with training and improvements on specific bits of the team, but overall I think Formula 1 2020's My Team mode is a little lacking in depth, and I mean proper depth. So deep that you can shout into it and it sounds like it's going on forever. It is that depth that I feel I'm used to. I feel like I'm used to that because, well, games like WWE SmackDown vs. Raw 2006 through 8, there were graphs galore in that. There were so many little intricate bits where you could manage the roster and specifically tell people to go and do things on specific days. Now, with Formula 1 2020 and My Career, or My Team rather, you have a bit of a relaxed version of that. It has depth, it has something in there to give you a bit of control. You pick the engine, you pick the team colours, you pick the car, you pick so on, so forth, all of this. And that's all fine. You pick the upgrades, you do everything, but you don't have the branded deals that you probably would with something else a bit more in depth. It's deep enough that it's enjoyable, but there is a bit of room for improvement. As a driver, you don't get to, as has become a meme for reviewers of late who think this is apparently funny, you don't get to pick out your watch deal. You don't get to pick out these little bits that are more in depth of the Formula One experience, but you do get a bit more of the working on the engine. You do get a bit more of working with aerodynamics and such and so on that you didn't have last year with your team. Both the My Career and My Team have the same rough UI, but some parts are locked off, some parts are lopped off, and overall it feels like the My Team mode is the better, more expansive version of My Career, which is weird to say because, well, it's not as in depth as I would probably like. It's not the Football Manager version of Formula One. It's nowhere near that in depth. You don't micromanage every single penny that you spend. It's all broad strokes, but it's broad strokes enough that it's accessible for newcomers to the series, but also in depth enough that you can enjoy it and switch off. And that's what I like about Formula One 2020. It's broad enough that new people can come in, but it's also deep enough that you can enjoy it while working off a day of, well, working. You can relax with it.
Great job, you've done everything we wanted today.